Thanks for tuning in to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. Here you'll find tips, insight, and information to help your music and your ministry succeed. Whether you're a singer, a musician, or a songwriter, we want to help you where you are, but we also want to help you get to where you want to go. We believe that our talents are God's gift to us, but what we do with those are our gift back to God. Yesterday's information is important, but what we can learn today will make this the best day yet. Hey everybody, Rob Novell here, your host with the CNS podcast, The Best Day Yet. Welcome back to another episode. Excited to be here with you today. And you know what? Happy 4th of July. Today is the 4th. It's exciting. I don't know if you're anything like me, but so I don't want to brag, but I have some really wealthy neighbors. And they began to show their wealth about 3 nights ago with all of the fireworks that they purchased for tomorrow. Trey came walking, my son Trey came walking into the kitchen a couple of nights ago, and he's like, man, they just shoot fireworks for no reason down here in the South, don't they? And I'm like, yep, they don't need any reason. It was like the 4th of July Eve. So that's all the more reason to get out and start setting off the fireworks. Hey, if you don't have your fireworks for this evening, just a little tip. Again, here at CNS, we just like to educate you and give you tips and tricks to make your life better. So here's one for your 4th of July. If you've not bought your fireworks yet, when you go to the fireworks stand, you want to buy from the guy wearing an eye patch with 2 fingers. He sells the best. That's horrible. He sells the best fireworks. So, hey, again, it is Independence Day. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first, hey, we are 2 weeks away from CNS 23. You're probably going, I can't wait until CNS 23 is over. So this guy quits talking about this every week. And I get that. And listen, just give me 2 more weeks and that'll be over. You won't hear me say, hey, CNS 23 is coming up. You'll hear me say, hey, CNS 24 is coming up, because you know what? We are already underway planning and got some exciting things that we'll be announcing to our students that are at the Charles Novell School of Music, July 16th through the 22nd for our next session, CNS 23. We've got some exciting announcements for them about 24, and then we will start sharing that publicly as well. But just really excited, looking forward to just a great week that I know that God has prepared for us. I'm excited every year, but there's this year just a special sense of expectation. In talking with students here over the last week and talking with staff members and talking with special guests that I have coming in, I just really do believe God's going to do some great things. So if you are not planning to be with us, keep us in your prayers. We are going to have students from about 24 different states, right at 100 students coming in for the week, and just super blessed that they're going to spend that time with us. So keep us in your prayers that God would speak through our staff in a special way to make a difference in some people's lives. So, hey, today is July the 4th, and funny story there. Let's see, my daughter Aaliyah is 22. And she came down about 10 years ago. We were heading to the family picnic on the 4th of July. And man, I have great kids. We have never had to get on the kids when we were, heading out about potentially what they were wearing. They're good, modest, young people, but at the same time, they're pretty much usually aware of where we're heading. And, if we're going to church, they know to be wearing church clothes. They understand. They got the drill down. But this particular day, I'm hollering, hey, we got to go. And she comes walking down the steps, and I happen to look at her t-shirt. It's the only time, y'all, I've ever asked my daughter to go change her clothes. she went through this stage where it was all British, British, British. She comes walking down the steps on Independence Day, mind you, the 4th of July, the day we celebrate our independence from Great Britain. She comes down the stairs wearing a t-shirt with the British flag on it. I'm like, no, not today. I need you to go change that shirt. So, I hope you're spending time with family today and making some memories like that as well. And man, that's what I want to talk about today. We talked 2 weeks ago. The podcast 2 weeks ago was on being yourself. And you know what? We're going to kind of carry that on a little bit today. It's Independence Day. And man, I want to truly encourage you to keep your focus on being you, on being who you are. Maybe you struggle in this area with some of the things that we talked about 2 weeks ago. If you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to it. Comparison, that's dangerous when we start comparing ourselves to others. And, maybe if you are struggling with that, if that's something that is hard for you, let's make today, July the 4th, let's make today that Independence Day where you break away from things that are holding you and you move into what God needs you to do and has prepared you to be. We did talk about this 2 weeks ago. God has individually made us. We are all, the word says, fearfully and wonderfully made. So let's set aside all of the comparison and just truly focus on being ourselves. What's kind of caused us to circle back to this is I've had a couple conversations this week about people, again, Charles Novell School of Music. We're about helping people with their singing, with their playing, with their songwriting. So we're all about talent. And, you've heard me say over and over, I believe our gifts that God has given us, our talents, are God's gift to us. But what we do with them, that's our gift back to God. So yes, first and foremost, and I love being around people more talented than me. I'm a sponge. I'll learn from those settings. I am always excited to be in a room full, say in the recording studio, be in a room full of musicians that are better than me, because at the end of the day, I'm going to have learned something, I'm going to have grown, and I'm going to have improved. But, I've seen people in my life that are, yes, absolutely, the talent is there. They've got all the talent in the world to do what they need to do, but they are so caught up in people pleasing, trying just to fit in, maybe to a setting, a conversation, just to where, and maybe you've got people like that in your life. I've had some people that, they know everything about everything. And if you don't believe me, just ask them and they will prove to you that they know everything about everything. But, being in a conversation with someone, I want to talk to that person and I want to see, who are you? To constantly be giving me stories, trying to, one of two things: either impress me with this story. Maybe you're name dropping. Maybe you're putting names in there that you think, Rob's going to know this person. So if I say this, man, it looks like success by association. More likely than not, that's going to be a negative thing. That's going to backfire on you. And what it shows, I think, is some real struggles with you and your individuality. July the 4th, again, let's just keep calling this Independence Day. I want you to be who you are. Some of these people I have seen, and honestly, I thought, the sky is the limit for these individuals. God's going to open doors and use them in a special, special way. And more than their talent, it's not their talent maybe that's kept that from happening, but it's their attitude. And man, I remember growing up, my mom, one of the big phrases from my mom was, hey, we need an attitude adjustment, a checkup from the neck up. And wow, I kind of cringed when I even said that, because I heard that a lot, you all. How we think about things and how we approach things with our mindset can affect potentially what God wants to do for us. You've heard this, your attitude affects your altitude. So some of these people that I've ran into and I've known over the years, where are they today? Man, that, you know what? They're a little bitter. They're a little upset. They're a little hurt. They think that people have just been out to get them. And in reality, it's like the cowardly lion from Wizard of Oz. When they're in that hallway and he starts screaming and hollering because someone pulled his tail. And you know what? They have to come and clearly explain to him that what? You pulled it yourself, Mr. Lion. No one pulled your tail. You're pulling it yourself. And I think if we could sit down with some of these people and truly explain to them, you did this to yourself. You kind of brought yourself into this position because the way you approach things. Man, I would love to get this point through to some people because I believe that God's got a lot that he could do through them if they just made themselves willing and available to do what God needed them to do. Get themselves out of the way and focus on God. Had another conversation this week with someone, and I've kind of been helping them through some pain and hurt that they've gone through. If you're listening to this, you've got some level of church background. CNS is the Charles Novell School of Music. We are a Christian music school. We believe in God first and foremost. That again, He is who has given us our talents and our gifts, and we're giving them back to Him. So this is church. This is religion. This is ministry. If you're listening to this, you should have a clear understanding of that, and you're going to have a clear understanding of the next thing that I say. It's more and more and more I keep hearing, I've been hurt by the church. I've been hurt by the church. I've been hurt by the church. Just watched a documentary on that this past week. And you know what? I experienced the same thing. And I had to come to a point in my life and realize it's not about a horizontal relationship for me. It's not about horizontally what it says on the name of the church sign or above the church door, but it's a vertical relationship, me and God. The Bible says, work your own salvation out with fear and trembling. I am not a religious person, but I am a Christian and a follower of Jesus Christ. I just don't like to get caught up in the politics of church and everything that happens there. Because yes, a lot of people have been hurt in the church, and I get that. So I've been helping an individual through some things, and just in talking with them recently, the enemy, the Bible says that the devil is the author of confusion, and God's nowhere near that. God is not causing that. It's the devil who likes to get in and try to create dissension and discord and, man, unity. If we could truly get to that point, and you know what? I think that's where I'm really truly heading with this thought of being yourself, embracing your independence. You've got to be first and foremost unified with yourself. You got to know who you are and be okay with that, to let God move you forward into what He needs you to do. So independence, let's work and concentrate, focus on being who we are, just being ourselves. Man, the quote that I've heard over and over from the legendary Irish writer Oscar Wilde says it this way: the reason you should be yourself is because everyone else is already taken. Man, I have seen this in through the school, through the recording industry, through gospel music. I have seen so many people trying to be carbon copies of something that they have seen. I remember there was a time, if you didn't have this certain sound equipment purchased from this certain store, you weren't a real quartet, because certain quartets were endorsed by and advertising and promoting this equipment from this particular store. And, we go through fads, and things are hot for a while, and things are, kind of the trend, so to say. And I get that. Listen, I understand with equipment, you get what you pay for, but we don't have to have exactly what, person A has. We're person B. We need what's going to work for us. I've seen ministry after ministry trying to follow in their footsteps of maybe a friend, a neighbor, a family member, trying to do what they want to do based upon what they've seen others do. And that doesn't necessarily work. We've got to quit worrying about them, quit comparing ourselves to them, and let's focus on what God has called us to do. Here's the thing. You're going to be able to reach people with your ministry that Rob Novell will never be able to touch. We are in different places, different circles, different situations. And you know what? God needs to use us. He needs our availability where we are, and not keep trying to achieve this or do that. I see this a lot. I through the school, and promoting the school, advertising the school, and honestly, a burden to see people benefit from the school. I'll find myself at different conventions and different events throughout the course of the year, where I'm there and I'm setting up a booth and I'm advertising the school. And man, I see people just kind of chasing the proverbial carrot hanging at the end of the stick. They think that if they sing here and they do this and they do that, then, NQC is going to call and schedule them for Tuesday night. That Prevost is going to call and bless their ministry with a bus. That one just hit me. How many people have second mortgaged their home and got into financial problems buying a bus or a motorhome because they thought that would give them a certain level of acceptability and cause them to fit into certain circles? Y'all, I like to say it this way. Buses and computers are evil necessities. They are things that we have. But look, my dad, my mom and dad, I grew up, they had a bus. I grew up with that. I was fascinated with buses. I loved them. I couldn't wait to get on one and travel. I tell you what, about the second or third night I'm standing on the side of the highway holding a flashlight, my take on those things began to change. I heard my dad say this over and over. Every time you start that bus, put $100 bill to the side, because you're going to need that for repairs, for tires, for this or that. But people get caught up in that, thinking that they have to have that again to fit into a certain circle. Look, I travel in an SUV and I get everything that I need in that SUV. I've had multiple trailers in my life. Right now, I don't currently have one. I don't currently want one. I don't need one. I'm able to take what I need in the back of my SUV. My days of you all carrying in all this big equipment and setting this up and setting that up, those days are over. I go out for the most time by myself, and I carry what is going to fill a room that I know I'm setting up in, but it's not going to break my back to get it in the building. And I mentioned earlier, you get what you pay for with equipment, and I've invested into my equipment, but these days, for me, it's all about comfort and ease and what works best for Rob. My keyboard, I travel, I do instrumental music from the keyboard. I travel with a $600 keyboard. Yes, there are $4,000 keyboards that I would like to have, but when I go out to do a service, I don't need 3,000 sounds inside of a keyboard. I need one sound. I need a piano, and I need it to be a good representation of what a real acoustic piano sounds like. So for me, it works best to stay in Rob's lane and do what Rob needs to do. Man, I've learned over the years the hard way of, trying to the whole comparison game. It doesn't work. Just simply be who you are. You're one of a kind. In fact, we all are. So we need to express it by being authentic and genuine. Quit trying to put on a front. Just be who you are. I think once you can do this, you'll become reliable. People will believe in you because you represent character, quality, and originality. People won't have to say, "Oh, that's that guy that wants to one up every time I say something," or that's that person who they're looking to sing on these dates because that's what they feel like they need to do just because someone else is doing that. No, be genuine. Just be real. Be who you are. Here's a couple of things. We are all different, and we've all been different since birth. You know what? We have genes and we have traits and representation, maybe of family members. Jen and I love, looking back and watching our kids grow up and seeing who God is turning them into and who they're becoming. I see certain things in my daughter that are me. At times, I think overall, Aaliyah is more me and Trey is more Jen. But we see traits of each other in both of them. They're unique. They're two different people. But it's fun to kind of see some of those traits. But it's also great as a parent just to encourage them to be themselves. And some of the coolest moments I've had, I remember both of my kids at different times coming home from school. Maybe that evening we're eating dinner, we're spending family time together, watching TV, and hey, I had some kids in the hallway stop me today and say, "You know what? There's something different about you. You know what? We're called to be salt and light. Once we accept Christ into our lives, people are supposed to see a difference in us. And hey, you don't get in trouble in class. You're not in the principal's office. You don't get called out. What's different about you?" Man, it's literally opened the door for my kids to be able to witness and share about their faith. So be you. Be who you are. Watch God use that. The second thing with them is they were taught the same way, but you know what? Did they learn the same way? Nature versus nurture. That's kind of the endless debate. But the fact is this, despite, them being brought up identically, two children from the same family, they still have developed into different personality traits, different skill sets, different abilities. So it's not always what you're born into that you're going to copy that. It's what are you teaching? What are they learning? And being individual in your life. How are you taught? Are you patterning that? So many times I've talked to people that, wanted to kind of break that pattern in their family history. Be it abuse, be it alcohol, be it things that, they struggled with. They saw it and they made the conscious decision, you know what, I'm not going to follow that path. My wife is kind of that testimony. She grew up great family, but she saw some things and she made a conscious decision that when she became a mom, she was going to approach some things a different way. I've done the same thing. I love my parents. They raised me better than I let them raise me, if you know what I mean. But as I've become an adult, you know what? I've had to make some changes in how I parent what was modeled in front of me. I've been through some things in my life. I don't have that burning testimony of I was an alcoholic and God delivered me from that. In fact, I talked to a young lady a couple years ago, and she was down because she didn't think God could use her because she didn't have any crazy testimony of being delivered from drugs or alcohol. I said, I grew up in a Christian home. In all reality, it was a perfect situation. And man, I encouraged her. I'm like, are you kidding me? That is a testimony within itself, especially these days when we look around and we see what's going on in the world around us. Her parents were married. They stayed married. That's kind of my story. I was able to attend both my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversaries and my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. 150 years of marriage. modeled in front of me. Jen and I just celebrated our 25th. So, models are good, and having things to look at, having people that you look up to and inspire, that are inspiration to you, that's all good. Take from that, apply it to who you are, and watch what God can do with that. So life situations make us all different. We've all been through different things. I tell people all the time, if I'm in a counseling situation, I'm not going to tell them that I know what they're going through, because even if I've been through a similar thing, man, they are them. They are who God created them to be. They're an individual different than me. The way I responded to something, they may be responding totally different. So life experience kind of begin to separate us and make us different people. Just the uniqueness of a never-ending learning process. It's one thing to be taught in school, college, music lessons, the CNS, Charles Novell School of Music, but man, it's another thing to figure it out on our own. And, I sat through classes and things clicked for me differently than they clicked for other people in the room, because I was who I was and they were who they were. We just approached it differently because we were individuals. So I'm just bringing up some points to show you how different we all truly are. So why do we keep trying to be like everyone else? Let's just be who God intends for us to be. How can you benefit from that? Several things. You were born differently. You learned your own way. You had different life experiences. You learned by yourself different things, some through hard times. I believe God lets us go through things and we can make mistakes so we can avoid doing that later in life. So we learn different ways. We learn by personal experience. You're definitely one of a kind. So back to that famous quote again, by Oscar Wilde: be yourself because everyone else is already taken. If you truly be yourself, then listen to this. Only you can write the way you write. Only you can sing the way you sing. Only you can play the way you play. Only you can work the way you work. Only you could dance the way you would dance, or paint the way you paint, create the way that you could create. Only you can love the way you love. Be yourself. Focus today, July the 4th, fireworks going off tonight. You know what? Let that be in celebration, because this is the day that you finally found your independence and made this your best day yet. You all be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the name the Charles Novell School of Music. And for more information on CNS and our upcoming events, like our online school, our weekend regional sessions, our creative coaching, and our pastor's retreat, you can visit us at our website at www.cnsmusic.com. As you've listened to this episode, we hope that you've gained some information that you can apply to your music and to your ministry to make today the best day yet.